Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to your September horoscopes for your zodiac sign. Now, this is how you're going to read for your sign. You're going to read first for your rising sign. If you do not know your rising sign, you want to go on a free 99 website like AstroSeek or astro.com. You punch in your data, your date of birth, location, and time, and then you will see your rising sign, which is also the ascendant. Then you're going to read for your ascendant sign. This is how I do the monthly forecasts because this will give you a bigger picture of where the transits are going through your own personal houses. Now, as a disclaimer, like always, this is based on just your rising sign. There's other things to take into consideration, like if you have any natal placements in and around the degrees that I mention. Another thing to keep in mind is that not all transits will impact you because they just won't. Like, that's why you want to look at the degree of the transit and if you have any placements around that specific transit. Try not to get into this mindset of, is this good or bad? Because only you can perceive of something as good or bad. Something that might be a challenging aspect for me or its transit might actually be something that ends up being a blessing in disguise later on. So I try not to say what is good or bad. I'll say, this is an auspicious day to start something. This might bring blessings down the road. This is a challenging transit that you might need to lean into, or you might be triggered on this day. That's how I try to do the forecast so that you are prepared and you're not blindsided by certain things that might happen. You also have to take into consideration your profection year, so your time lord, different like midlife transits. You know, there's people going through their Saturn return right now, which is different, which is a different experience than if you weren't going through a Saturn return. Some people are going through their midlife transits. They're going through their simultaneous Pluto and Neptune square. So there's all these different layers to take into consideration when you listen to this. And like I said, collectively, 2025, we're all going through massive changes. We're all being asked to show up in different ways to really work through our own bullshit, to heal our trauma. And then individually, we can narrow that down to certain things that we are going to be focusing on in our own transits. So, if you want to learn more about your own specific natal chart, I am teaching Astrology 101. I opened up my star school that starts October 6th. It's a 12-week class. We meet for 2 hours every Monday between 12 and 2 p.m. And I'm going to teach you how to read your natal chart so that when you listen to the transits and you remember, oh, I have a 5-degree sun in Aries. So then next year, the Saturn and Neptune conjunction in Aries is going to impact me. Stuff like that. It's really important to understand your natal chart when you listen to these transits, because like I said, not all transits are going to impact you. And also not all transits impact people the same way. So that is one way you can go deeper with me. And I mean, obviously you're listening to this. So if you are a Patreon member, you're getting this at the top of the month. If you want to become a Patreon member so that you could receive this in the beginning of the month versus like when it's, we're already going into mid-month, then you can be in the North Node. I believe I call it the North Node tier. It's $10 a month. And you can also listen to the monthly forecast that I do with Stephanie Campos, which we go day by day, every single day of the month. In these monthly transits, I only really talk about the ones that would impact your rising sign, the most important ones. Obviously, the 2 lunations and any of your chart rulers, your planetary ruler changing signs or making significant aspects. If you want to come along with me every week in the forecast where I break it down day by day, that's free 99 on YouTube. But if you want to support my work, you can join the first tier of my Patreon, which you just pay $5. I think it's $5.55 a month to support my work. So that is how to engage with the content of the monthly forecasts. I obviously can't answer all of the questions you have if you are not a Patreon member. This is another benefit of being a member because if you're not a Patreon member and you're watching it in the general public, you're already catching this forecast in like mid-month when I've already, spent a lot of time putting this out for my Patreon members. So they get first priority. And then if you're watching just the clips of it, just know that I post the clips for marketing purposes, but there's a whole month of transits that give context to your experience. Because there were a couple of people that just watched the clips last month and they were like, yeah, but I'm a Libra rising and this Venus Cancer conjunction in my 10th house is not auspicious for me. I just got fired from my job. But if you had watched the full month forecast, I said that Venus and Jupiter, just because they're both benefics, doesn't mean that it's all going to be like rainbows and butterflies. So those are the disclaimers. Thank you so much for being here and thank you so much for supporting my work. Let's get to your sign. Hello, Pisces rising. Welcome to your September forecast. How are y'all doing? So you are at the spotlight of this month, I have to say, and probably, you're feeling it. There are 5 planets that are changing signs this month. Mercury will change from Virgo to Libra. The sun will go from Virgo to Libra, which will bring in the equinox. Mars will go from Libra and then it will go to Scorpio. And then Saturn will go from Aries to your first house. And that's how we start the month. September 1st, Saturn retrograde re-enters Pisces. Now, you've been dealing with Saturn in your first house since when was that? For 3 years. So like 2023, did it first go into Pisces? And then you had a little break from May to September, and Saturn was in your second house of Aries. Saturn is going to go back there to finish the job, finish whatever story has been going on for Pisces risings. Now, I would say Saturn in the first house, it brings a serious tone, right? Because Saturn wants 3 things from you. Saturn wants discipline, Saturn wants structure, and Saturn wants a plan. So a lot of Pisces rising, you're ruled by Jupiter. You might be, and you have Jupiter in Cancer in your 5th house. A lot of Pisces rising, depending on what sign your Jupiter is in your chart ruler, right? You're not known to be very Saturnian, you're not very known to have a plan or be structured in any way. I would say that that's more of a Saturn ruled sign like Capricorn. But Saturn has been asking you to kind of lock in, kind of get serious for a moment because something is trying to emerge here, especially with self, right? With the North Node going through your first house. Now, on September 2nd, Mercury will ingress into the sign of Virgo, which is your 7th house. So for Pisces and Virgo risings, you are going through changes between yourself and a partner. Okay. Like if you don't have a partner, then this is you and your one-on-one relationships, you with people that are in your life that you have an intimate relationship with. Because you yourself are changing. You are going through some growth. You are remembering what life is all about. Maybe you've been interested in your hobbies again. You've been healing something from your childhood, And as a result of that, your relationships that you've been having might not be in alignment with that old version of you. And so these eclipses are coming in September to kind of clear that away, the South Node going through your seventh house. And this is not an easy thing to go through because obviously, most people, I don't know if Pisces risings are like this though. Pisces rising are very optimistic people, very much like Sag risings. But oftentimes people will hold on to things past their expiration date because it's the devil that they know versus the devil that they don't know. So Mercury is coming over here asking you about your contracts with people, the agreements that you've made with people. And it's not retrograde, but it's asking you, like, what sorts of commitments do I have with this person? Right? You might just be curious and ask a lot of questions. Again, if you do have a partner, the ruler of your descendant is in your seventh house. So also the focus could be on your partner. Your partner might be going through something. Your partner might have lost their job or whatever the case may be. And so the focus becomes more on that person. On September 6th, Uranus will station retrograde at 1 degree of Gemini in your fourth house of your private life, home, family, family of origin, ancestors, and parents. So Uranus is here for the next 8 years. I mean, it is retrograde, so it's going to go back into your third for the rest of the fall and next spring. But Uranus disrupts. Uranus wants a change. So a lot of Pisces rising, if you are zero, like if your rising sign is from like 0 to, let's say, 5 degrees, this is a square to you and your descendant. So some of y'all might feel like moving. Some of you might feel like, okay, this situation I have right now is not working out for me. I need a disruption. I need a change. Whatever it is, let's say that you have been nomadic for a little while and you're like, I want to change. I want to have some sense of home and roots, which honestly is not a Uranian signature. So I'm just saying, like, whatever you were doing might change or you might pivot as a result of Uranus being the planet of awakening and sudden aha epiphany moments, right? I wouldn't say that Uranus is the type of planet that's like, let me build roots here or let me stay here for a long time. It's more like being curious of your options. On September 7th, there's a total lunar eclipse at 2:08 p.m. Eastern time, and this is happening at 15 degrees of Pisces. Now, you want to look out for your rising sign if it's around. I would say you're going to feel it because it's happening in your first and seventh house axes, which are the angular houses. But if you have Pisces rising between 10 and like 20 degrees, wowzers, you're going to feel this eclipse on you. This is a full moon. This is an ending of some kind. Some part of you is dying, metaphorically, okay? Like, whether it's your physical body and you're like, I'm going to exercise after not exercising for a long time. I'm going to improve my health. I'm going to focus on myself. If maybe you've dedicated your life in raising children just because the ruler of this lunation is Jupiter in Cancer in your fifth house, which also deals with children. This is like, I'm going to focus on myself now because maybe they went to college or maybe you need to prioritize your self-care. Now, Pisces risings who don't want children, I would be very careful because Jupiter is the planet of children and abundance, and it's in its exaltation in Cancer. So this is a very fertile transit. If you do not want them babies, I would protect yourself. And it's a North Node eclipse, and the moon and Jupiter have mutual reception. If you do, this would be a great time to start to try to have those babies. But yeah, something is ending. Okay, this is a full moon between you and a partnership, perhaps. Um, if you're going into eclipse season and your relationship is on rocky ground, this could be the clearing away of that partner that maybe you were not expecting or were expecting. Who knows? But because this is a North Node eclipse, and like I said, the moon and Jupiter have mutual reception, if you surrender to this release, then it will be a blessing in disguise down the line. Nobody likes going through breakups, I have to say. Nobody likes it. It's a difficult time, but when I look back on my breakups, they've always been a blessing in disguise, to be honest with you. Okay, moving right along. On September 13th, Mercury in Virgo will conjunct the Sun at 20 degrees of Virgo. Again, this is your seventh house of one on one partnerships. Now, I really like this if you want to renew your vows or you want to call in a new partnership of some kind, whether it's romantic or business in nature, because because Mercury also rules your fourth house, maybe you are moving and you're signing the papers, you're um whatever this is, it's a contract, right? Mercury is exalted and in its domicile in Virgo. So Mercury is very well resourced, it's very powerful here. And when a planet goes into the heart of the sun, which is what Kazimi means, that planet is blessed. It's in the throne room. So it's almost like back in medieval days when somebody would like go to the queen and ask like petition to like ask for something like money or something like that. This is like that kind of energy. This is like asking the ruler of the our solar system like, hey, this is what I want to do. And because this is happening in your partnership sector, like I said, this could be a good time to do magic around calling in an aligned partner, a business partner, or trying to find a home that is something, a place where you want to live. Again, with Uranus going through your fourth, though, I don't know. A lot of Pisces risings might be experimenting with maybe going abroad or like selling their home, perhaps. Something about Uranus in the fourth is very destabilizing. It's very disruptive. So I don't know if you're necessarily trying to get a home or buy a home, but there's some contractual thing going on with Mercury in its exaltation in the seventh house. On September 18th, Mercury will go into the sign of Libra, which is your eighth house. And Mercury, again, rules your seventh house and your fourth house. The eighth house is other people's money and resources. So this could be you asking for a loan. This could be you paying off some debts. The eighth house is also the second from the seventh. So this could be also shared resources with you and your partner. So let's say you are a married Pisces rising and you decide to split up and get divorced. This could be the paperwork that you do during this time. On September 19th, Venus ingresses into the sign of Virgo. So Venus is in its fall in Virgo in your seventh house, but ultimately Venus is a benefic. So I like this. I think anytime we have Venus transiting a house, it does bring some level of beauty, some level of love. So Venus rules your eighth house and it also rules your third house. I would definitely try to make connections. The third house is like our neighborhood, our cousins, the people who are in close proximity to us. The third house is our speech and our words. It is the house of communication. So I would definitely try to make connections at this time, which is interesting because Virgo in Venus and Virgo, again, is in its fall, right? It's a very independent placement for Venus. Venus wants to form bonds and merge with people. But in the sign of Virgo, this is a mercurial Virgo. This is a mercurial Venus. So, yeah, I would try my best to meet new people during this time. Um, go out in your neighborhood, be curious, you know? There's something about having Venus and Virgo in your seventh house. This is for the single Pisces rising, and Jupiter in your fifth of romance. That is some sort of expansion or opportunity to find love during this time. I really like the sextiles between Jupiter and Venus. Um, Maybe this isn't necessarily like a long-term relationship, but this could be opportunities for romance. Let's just say that. Okay, so September 21st, there's a solar eclipse at 3:54 p.m. Eastern time, and this is at 29 degrees of Virgo. This is the anaretic degree. So if you are a Pisces rising with, let's say, 24 to 29, maybe even more than that, 23 to 29 degrees of Pisces rising, this solar eclipse is happening on your descendant, which means that, again, something is happening in your partnership sector that is needing to be purged, cleansed, or released because it's a South Node eclipse. Some contract perhaps that no longer works out for you, since the ruler of this lunation is in the eighth house. The eighth house is also death. So some contract metaphorically might be ending, like a marriage contract, a partnership, business partnership. This eclipse is a little difficult and challenging because it's opposing Saturn in your first house. So you might be the person that's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I am wanting to dissolve this relationship in the most it's an opposition. So I don't know how harmonious this is going to be, but I think there is support with Jupiter there in the fifth house. Again, your chart ruler being in a trine to you, I think the more Pisces risings can surrender to whoever leaves your life at this time, if you can trust and have faith that any ending is a beginning, I think you'll get through this. I said the same thing to Virgo risings, but I think Virgo's orientation to uncertainty is a lot more anxious than a Pisces rising, just because Virgos are more anxious people. But I think that when Pisces risings can just really lean into their optimism, you're going to get through this with flying colors. On September 22nd, Mars will ingress into Scorpio, and on the same day, the sun will enter Libra, which is the fall equinox. Now, Mars is in your ninth house. This is the house of God. This is the house of spirituality and higher learning and foreign lands and foreign travel. So a lot of Pisces rising might be motivated, let's say, to travel abroad, to learn something new. The ninth house is also the house of astrology. So if you're interested in learning how to read your natal chart, I am teaching, and the class starts on October 6th. But I really like this because I think when Mars enters Scorpio and it's going to start to make trines to you and to your chart ruler Jupiter, you're going to be very optimistic and motivated by your creations or whatever you're doing. So I think out of all the signs, you will have an easier time with this just because it's in a trine to you. Mars rules your second house of your personal finances and income. So just be aware of the overspending. Again, Saturn in your first is asking you to be serious about something. And then the sun will go into your eighth house, which is why I say just be careful of your spending, because eighth house seasons, right? When you're in the eighth, this is about ending something. This is about rebirthing of something. The eighth house is other people's finances and resources. So, how are you being supported? Are you trying to clear debts? Are you trying to clear loans? And are you receiving money for the things that you're putting out? Because you want to keep the second and eighth house balanced. And I'm just curious for all Pisces rising, like, how has it been with Saturn and Neptune in your second house so far? You would have experienced this from May to September 1st. So Saturn and Neptune in Aries in your first house, in your second house, is trying to get you to like reimagine an income source, try to get you to maybe use your imagination and build structures around how can you receive money. So the eighth house, right, receiving support, is going to be your Libra season. Now, I really like the second week of September because there will be air trines between your 12th, 8th, and 4th houses. These are the moksha houses in Vedic astrology, which are the houses of liberation. They're also hidden houses, except for the 4th, which is in a square to you. So this is the time to really work out any like fears you have, any traumas or childhood traumas or family related things that are historical that are kind of rooting you in. And the last week of September, September 22nd, once the sun enters Libra, you're going to have a grand air trine again between the sun, Pluto, and Uranus in these houses. So these grand air trines are kind of inviting you to interrogate and really think about how you're thinking about and how you're kind of facing your fears, things that are hidden, things that you might have been repressing or suppressing in your subconscious mind, and how those things are the very things that are being projected out into your physical reality. Because whether you like it or not, Pisces rising, you are changing. You are up leveling in some way. And I think focusing on your creations, your passions, romanticizing your life, and really following your heart's desire and what is emotionally fulfilling to you will be the key to getting through September. So thank you so much, Pisces rising. I will see you next month. Bye.